Good evening, everyone. Welcome to night two of our District 44 Rules Clinic. My name is Mark Teagle. I am the District Umpire in Chief for District 44. And with me, as usual, is District Staff Umpire Jim Morlaris. And we'll be taking you through another adventurous night in the Little League Rules Book. And we're going to start out with just a quick reminder of what we covered last night. And just to note that there is a recording that was made from last night. So we'll have that available on YouTube. If you didn't see all of it or you just want to watch it again, be sure to look that up. We'll also have tonight's recording. Just a reminder of the protocols. Keep your video off. You should be on mute so that we are not using as much bandwidth, and it'll help the videos to play more smoothly and the sound to come through better. By all means, use the chat to answer or to ask questions, and we'll try to answer as many of those as we have time for, but we do need to keep the meeting moving. We'll also have some scenarios that we'll ask you to vote on, so please participate in that. We had really good participation last night and some great fun with that. So let's look at what we covered. We didn't really have any new rules for this year for regular season. There's one that affects postseason, but it's a pretty minor thing. We talked about equipment, things like bats, helmets, catcher's equipment. We talked about the pitch and pitchers rules that cover that. We also talked about batting, about the continuous batting order, position in the batter's box. Didn't really talk about thrown bats, but what we recommend doing is take that player, tell him you really, really need to drop that bat, and talk to the coaches, get them to really make that a point of emphasis because it is a safety issue. We talked about definitions of ball, strike, foul, ball, foul tip, and intentional walk. We talked about bunt, fair, and foul balls, the definitions and examples of catch and no catch, the ever popular infield fly rule, and I talked a little bit about some local league options. It's important that you need to know if your league is going to be following the options that are available in the rule book for them, or if there are any local rules that you need to know about as the umpire. All right, we're now going to talk about base runners. And okay, Josiah, could you mute? Make sure I'm getting some noise there. Thank you. All right, we're going to talk about runners, and these are base runners. We talked a little bit last night about the courtesy runners that are permitted for the catcher and or pitcher of record when there are two outs. And that is a local league option for the regular season, and it is in place for the postseason. And then if it's continuous batting order, the player that made the last out is automatically going to be that courtesy runner. So just be aware, and it can't be a projected pitcher or projected catcher, somebody who's going to be coming in to pitch or catch. It has to be the person who was last pitching or last catching. If you are doing bat 9, you can have a special pinch runner. You can use a player that's not currently in the lineup. They're currently a substitute, and they can be brought in as a special pinch runner for any offensive player. It can't be used for continuous batting order. Every player is in the lineup. And you can only run once for a player. The runner can run multiple times for different players, but somebody can be run for only once in a game. And so as an umpire, you need to track that. All right, we're going to talk about runner's lane violation. And the runner's lane is this section halfway between home and first. It covers the last half of that. So on a 60-foot diamond, that's 30 feet long. On a 90-foot diamond, it is 45 feet long. On a 50-70 intermediate field, it's going to be half of 70, so 35 feet. It's going to be 3 feet wide, and it includes both of the lines. It's there to protect the fielder receiving the throw at first base. It's not there to protect the thrower. There must be a throw, and it must be a quality throw. So if this happens, if somebody is outside of that runner's lane and they interfere with a quality throw to first base, whether it's the first baseman or somebody else that's there to receive it, it is an immediate dead ball because it's an interference penalty. The batter runner is out and everybody else has to return to their time of pitch base. It doesn't happen often, but it's something you should be watching for. They'll sometimes run on purpose outside of that runner's lane, trying to get in the way. If it is not a quality throw, you cannot enforce it. All right. Here's that definition of being in the runner's lane. You have to have both feet within the runner's lane or on the lines marking the lane. But if they are running outside of it, their foot is completely outside the runner's lane, they are in jeopardy of interfering. They don't necessarily interfere just by running outside the lane. And the other exception is if they're avoiding a fielder playing on a batted ball, they can run outside the lane because they're not avoiding a tag. They are, in fact, avoiding interfering with somebody in the process of fielding a batted ball. All right. So here's
Hey,
a
Mark, just one comment. This is pretty much always and exclusively going to be the home plate umpire's call. It's not going to be a base umpire's call. It's going to be a home plate.
exactly. Home plate umpire has that angle to see where the runner's feet are, and he's going to be trailing the play coming up to see it. All right, let's take a look at this.
Everybody out. Jeremiah Dominguez punts. Fielded by Lane. Throws to first off the glove. It's a violation of running. Everybody will be sent back. And that takes a run off the board. So Dominguez will be out as he was running in the field of play. Don't want to throw the ball. It wasn't in the lane. He sees in the field of play.
All right, so in this case, we do have a batter runner clearly out of the runner's lane, and the catcher made a quality throw, but because of that runner's lane interference, the first baseman, or it might even be the second baseman in this case, is not in or is not able to field that quality throw. Plate umpire called the batter runner out and made the other runners return. So he nailed the call. All right, we're going to get ready to vote on this one.
On ESPN2, Arath Labarine drops down a dandy of a punt, and there's 2 on with nobody out.
That's what caused all the commotion. Nobody covering second. And guess what?
All right, so let's look at our question here. All right, the batter runner was in the runner's lane, causing the catcher not to attempt to throw, so he is out. There was no throw by the catcher to first base, so his runner interference is not enforced. Which one should it be? All right, we're getting some good participation. Just click on A or B up there, and the poll, share the results. 78% of you said it was B. Remember, we said that it had to be a quality throw, and if no, there has to be a throw. So good job out there on that. All right. So just a couple of examples. Okay, we're going to talk about the base path and the base line. All right. The path that the runner chooses to go from one base to another is up to them. They don't have to run in a straight line from one base to the other. In fact, good base running puts a little bit of a curve into it so that you don't have to slow down and turn 90 degrees at first base. You can round it, go around. Where the baseline comes into account is when the fielder attempts to make a tag. At that point, that runner needs to go directly toward the base they are heading to, either forwards or backwards. If they go out of the base path or their baseline by more than 3 feet to avoid a tag, they should be called out by the umpire. So if they are avoiding a fielder fielding a batted ball, they can move out because they're not avoiding a tag. And then keep in mind this definition of the baseline. In a rundown, they're turning around, they're going back and forth, back and forth. The baseline gets established when the tag is being attempted. And so they can be moving around as long as they're not avoiding a tag. But the moment they veer out of the baseline to avoid a tag, they can be called out. So sometimes it's just as squiggly as this is in the example. All right, if you're avoiding a fielding a batted ball, and you should avoid a fielder fielding a batted ball, that is not going out of the baseline. That is establishing your base path because you're not avoiding a tag. So some confusion on that for people, but very important distinctions. All right, let's talk about a force play. So by the batter becoming a runner, or we call them the batter runner until they become an actual base runner at a base, that runner is forced to move up. So they lose their right to occupy that base. And the batter becomes a runner. But that force might be removed or restored during a play. So think about that. They're being forced to give up their base to go to the next one because the batter becomes a runner. Let's watch this video. Fair ball, first baseman steps on the bag. Okay, so the force is removed, and now that play at second base has to be a tag play. It's no longer a force play, and it's very close at second base. To me, it looks like that toe gets in before the tag is applied. Could be that the umpire thought that maybe the force was still in effect. Not sure, but he does call him out in the original play. But why we have this video here is to emphasize that when the first baseman stepped on first, it removed the force and made this play at second into be a tag play. All right. We're going to hand it over to Jim.
Great, thanks, Mark. Yeah, so now we're going to talk about a rule that's kind of unique to Little League Baseball and the majors and below divisions. That's the runner leaving early. Now, if the pitcher is in contact with the pitcher's plate and has the baseball, has possession of the baseball, and the catcher is in the catcher's box ready to receive delivery of the ball, that means facing the pitcher with their helmet on. They don't have to be in the squat. They don't have to be all that way down. Then the base runners cannot leave their bases until the ball has been delivered and has reached the batter. It only takes effect once the continuous action of the ongoing play is stopped. What's that mean? Well, oftentimes you see this, I see this a lot in minors where a batter gets walked and that batter becomes the batter runner. He runs down to first base and he doesn't stop. He just keeps motoring on to second base. That's an example of continuous action. So Just because the pitcher has the baseball and is in contact with the rubber and the catcher's in the box ready to receive the baseball, while that batter runner's running down to first base, they have to be ready to make a play on that batter runner if he tries to get second base. When a runner leaves the base early, say the pitch has been delivered and but it has not reached the batter yet, and the base runner leaves a base, he's violated the rule, and his action affects all the other base runners. So if we enforce the batter leaving early rule, then he and all the base runners may need to return to their prior base. So we'll talk about how we have to decipher that in the next slides. First, runner leaving early is delayed dead ball. We don't call anything immediately when the batter does not hit the ball. Runners are allowed to continue, and if a play is made and the runner's out, the play stands. The out stands, and if a play is being made and the runner is safe, the runner or runners must return to the base occupied before the pitch. And there are no outs just for the act of leaving the base early. An example would be runners on first, runner on third. Runner on first leaves early and is safe at second base. And on the throw down, the runner at third goes home. Well, we're going to stop play and we're going to send the runner back to first base. We're also going to send the runner from third back to third base. Once again, the action of one runner affects all the runners. Now, if a batter hits the ball, the runners are allowed to continue. And if a play is made and a runner or runners are out, those outs stand. If a play is made and no runners are out, the runners must return to their original bases or to the unoccupied base nearest the one that was left. Umpires determine the base value of the hit ball, and the batter may not advance beyond that value. So in a situation where we have, say, a runner on second base, the batter hits a clean single, and the runner on second base scores or goes all the way to home, and the batter runner achieves second base on the throw, that batter runner has to go back to first base. Well, not only that, the runner on second base is going to be put back on, or if the runner on second left early, then he's going to be put back on second base. Yeah. Let's look at a video here.
Another 0-2 pitch in the dirt, breaking for the plate, and safe at home plate. I think that's what they're saying.
Kind of the red flag over there on first base, and that's what gets thrown out there if they thought the base runner left too early.
Unless they conference and decide to change the call, but I can't imagine they would.
Well, it's absolutely the right call, too.
Very much so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that runner on first is, clearly well off of first base by the time the ball gets to the batter. It's important for umpires to carry that red flag in their pocket and to throw it as soon as they've determined that the runner has left early. Don't wait until the play is over to throw the red flag. You want to throw it as soon as you've determined that the runner's left early. All right, we're going to talk about base awards for balls thrown out of play. This is in the dead ball territory. So throws on a batted ball, it's going to be a two-base award. For the first play by an infielder, it's going to be 2 bases from the time of the pitch. So the second play by an infielder or the first play by an outfielder is going to be 2 bases from the time of the throw. So umpires really need to kind of be mindful of where the base runners are at the time of the throw from an outfielder, because that will determine if the ball goes out of play, where those base runners were. If they had not achieved a base that they were almost to, well, they're going to get that base plus one more. But if they've gotten a step past it, then they're going to get two more bases on that.
And it's important, as Jim said, that it's from the time of the throw. It's not when the ball goes out of play in that situation. It could be several seconds after a center fielder throws the ball and it ends up in the dugout. It's where the runners were when that throw was released by the fielder that threw it out of play.
So when the ball is being thrown by the pitcher, it's going to be a one base award if it's a pitch ball or a pickoff play when the pitcher's in contact with the pitcher's plate at the start of the attempt. If the pitcher steps off and then throws, well, when they step off, they've become a fielder. And so as a fielder, if he throws the ball out of play, then it's going to be a two-base award. We don't see this much in majors and below, but when you get to intermediate and juniors, you'll see this more when pitchers are working out of the stretch and trying to pick off runners.
All right, we're moving on to interference and obstruction. These are things that happen on the field, happens a lot in minors, even in majors. It's important that umpires know the difference and that they're not afraid to make that call. So the batter has the right of way to swing at the pitch without being interfered. That's catcher's interference. For instance, if the catcher reaches forward with their glove and gets in the way, when the batter is swinging, there's an award for that. Once the batter hits the pitch, the fielder has the right of way to field the batted ball without being interfered with. And you can have batter interference or runner interference if they impede a fielder fielding a batted ball. And then the runner has the right of way to advance without being obstructed. That means any fielder without the ball that gets in the path of a runner, that's called obstruction. Even announcers get it mixed up sometimes when you're watching a game, and you'll want to call interference obstruction or obstruction interference. But the important thing to think about is who has the right of way in this. Fielding a batted ball, that's going to be the fielder. Running the bases and a fielder doesn't have the ball, then it's the runner who has the right of way there. So we're going to talk about obstruction first. So a fielder not in possession of the ball impedes the progress of any runner. And that doesn't require contact. It just requires that runner had to slow down, had to veer out of their path, had to change the way they were running because of the presence of that fielder if they don't have the ball. In Little League, a fake tag is also considered obstruction. For instance, a runner hits, or runner's going from first to third. The shortstop goes into second base and pretends like the ball's coming in, and that runner could have made it to third, but actually slides into second because they saw that fake tag being applied. And so that is a special case, and you can say that's obstruction and award appropriate bases. We want to make sure that the runners have the right to their baseline, the path that they've established going to that next base. There should not be anybody there. It can happen while a play is being made on them. It can happen away from the play. And we'll talk about the different scenarios that can happen in. All right, we had a question in the chat. Thank you, Ken. Which umpire will call the bases when the ball is thrown out of play? That's something you can pregame with your partner, but generally a ball thrown out to the side, it's going to be the plate umpire that's going to rule on that and award the bases, but it can be either umpire, whoever sees it clearly, but often it's the plate umpire. Okay, we're going to talk about the difference between Major League Baseball and Little League. Major League Baseball the rule says the catcher cannot block the pathway of a runner unless he is fielding the ball or when he already has possession of the ball. Little League's rule says if the defensive player blocks the base or baseline clearly without possession of the ball, obstruction shall be called. So what's missing there is the act of fielding the ball. That's a gray area that Little League took out. He either has the ball or he doesn't. If he doesn't have the ball, he can't be in the path of that runner. And you'll see this often. The catcher will set up in the path of that runner coming into home before the ball gets there. That in itself is not obstruction, but he's in grave danger of obstructing if that runner is impeded before that ball gets there. So in the rule book, these are two subheadings. They're called A and B. And so we talk about type A obstruction and type B obstruction. Type A is when a play is being made on the obstructed runner. And also if the batter runner is obstructed before touching first base. So if either of those things happens, it is an immediate dead ball. Time, that's obstruction. And the obstructed runner is awarded at least one base beyond the base last legally touched, and the umpire's judgment determines where the other runners are placed. So immediate dead ball if it's either on the play is being made on that obstructed runner or if it happens before reaching first. All right, here is an example of type A obstruction.
They're on the inside corner. Now they throw down. How they going to run down here? Noah down, running all the way back. He's going to be called obstruction on, I believe, Escobar, who got in the way of Dara, and he's being awarded home plate. It's 36.
Right in the baseline there. Looks like he makes a little bit of contact there with Derek Escobar. Better look here. Yeah. Gloves hit.
So in this situation, and it often happens during a rundown, that the fielder got rid of the ball and didn't get out of the way and impeded that runner. So this umpire, and her name is Kelly Dine, and she was the plate umpire one year for the World Series championship. I think the first woman ever to have that honored position. She made the correct call. She called type A obstruction, immediate dead ball, and awarded that runner the next base he was going to, and then would have also awarded bases to any other runners that should have advanced in that situation. So that's type A obstruction. All right, we're going to have a quiz or a vote here. And let's watch the video.
Left, and this ball's just hit really hard, and Chris Andrews can't get over there in time. But watch Arenta cut that ball off and then make a perfect throw to the relay man, Chris Cartman, who throws a strike to J.R. Osman, who you are not getting by this ball.
All right. So you just saw this play. Are we going to call that runner out on the play there, or do you think that catcher obstructed that runner? All right, people quick on the vote there. Good decisive umpires. They see a play, they make a decision, they let us know what they have. So here are the results. We have 86% of you who voted say B. We've got obstruction on the catcher. And that catcher was in there and impeded the runner before he had the ball. I mean, you can see that ball in that freeze right there, that ball is still coming in, and he's definitely impeding that runner. All right, now we're going to move on to type B obstruction. This is something away from the play, but that base runners, batter runners still have a right to be unimpeded around the bases. And this is often a sin of neglect. And so, and I'll get to the questions in the chat in just a moment. But let me finish talking about type B. So if they're not making a play on the runner who's obstructed, we let the play go on. It's a delayed dead ball. At the end of the play, the umpire shall impose such penalties, if any, that will nullify the act of obstruction. It might just be the runner would have gotten whatever he or she got anyway. And if the obstructed runner goes beyond the base that you would have awarded them to based on the obstruction, they put themselves at risk and they can be put out. For instance, somebody gets obstructed on the way to third. They decide, oh, I got obstructed, I should go home. They get thrown out at home. In the umpire's mind, they should have only been awarded third base. They're still in jeopardy at that point. Let me answer the question that was in the chat. What happens when the runner changes his path to run into the fielder? So if it's a type A obstruction or potential thing where they veer and they go into that runner, if you're convinced that it was intentional and trying to draw that call, you can actually call interference on that runner. That's pretty rare. But if you're convinced that that runner intentionally changed their path to run into the fielder who has the ball, or in some other situation, or even doesn't have the ball, then you can call them for interference. But that's pretty rare. What you're seeing usually is somebody that the fielder doesn't get out of the way, and they're obstructed going either into or forward to a base. All right, so we get back to type B obstruction. I think we've got some examples of that coming up.
They rock it, but they do not care at this point. And this one hit one. And that's a big stick. This game is going to be tied. We're on a third. In time, they got him. I think. Oh, wow. Hold on a second. We got to start some good sense.
Okay, let's watch this play again. We see the runner at first gets obstructed by the first baseman. First baseman's in their way. They're not even really paying attention to where they should be. The umpire waits till the play is finished, and then base awards are made. All right, we're going to have a vote on this next play. So we have another type B obstruction.
Bouncing ball, sneaks into the glove of the third baseman, and the bases are loaded. One in a row.
Did you see the obstruction?
That's hits. So the subs, the reserves, delivering here in clutch time in the fourth inning for Connecticut. And he has been awarded home plate. Nick Maynard just was awarded home, and now the third base umpire, Bill Bailey, is going to get a visit from Coach Costello.
All right, there's the obstruction by the third baseman. And we're going to have three choices here. There was no obstruction, so R2 should not receive a base award. Obstruction by the third baseman on R2, but an improper award of home to R2. Obstruction called by the third baseman on R2 and proper award of home. So here is the poll. Which one? Was there obstruction? Was the base award correct? Okay, a couple more people. Let's get a vote in here. Here are the results. Most people said B. Okay, that ball was pretty shallow. Probably without the obstruction, our runner from second base is not going to score on that play. And umpire got excited and said, oh, I had obstruction, and then I'm going to award home. But remember that it's kind of fantasy baseball. What would have happened had the obstruction not occurred? All right. And in this situation, in my judgment, I think he would have just made it to third. He might have wanted to go home, but his good base coach would have held him at third there. And so I think you made a good decision here.
All right. Okay, well, we're going to move on to the close cousin of obstruction, that is interference. And in the chat, Ryan had brought up a scenario, which actually isn't obstruction. It's an interference situation. We'll talk about it in this upcoming set of material. So
Yeah.
the first type of interference is catcher's interference. That's where the catcher interferes with the batter's swing. That's going to be a delayed dead ball. And the batter is going to be awarded first base if the ball is not put in play. If the batter reaches first base and all other runners advance at least one base, then the interference is ignored. Heck, if the batter hits a home run on that, we don't want to penalize the batter because the catcher interfered. So we want to let the play out. The manager has the option to take the penalty or the outcome of the play. So this is going to be a college game, super regional. It's going to show us a lot.
Chopped up the plate. Hey, charge him. And they say hit him with a nice box, and we'll do it again. Catcher interference. Oh, runner scored. Yeah, catcher interference. You can see it. I think it times not bad to put the runner back at third. And the base is easy run. Watch the contact point. Look how deep that is. Use interference. If it's a base hit, you can take the hit. Dan McDonald wants to say, hey, it cost us a run. Can we play that one through? Yeah, they're going to talk about it. Yeah, the runner gets hit. Yeah, the interference. You have an opportunity to play that thing through, and we choose to play it through. And Louisville will train it out for a run here in the first inning. I don't blame him. I don't even.
Yeah, there's a lot that happens in that. That was actually about 2 minutes of video that I tried to condense into about 25 seconds. So let's break it down. So first, the catcher interferes with the batter. Clearly saw the glove get completely knocked off of the catcher. The umpires let the play happen. On the play, the batter runner is thrown out at first base, and R3 advances home, and R2 advances to third base. After the play, the umpires, they just imposed the penalty for catcher's interference. They did exactly what they're supposed to do. That means they award the batter runner first base, and they sent R2 and R3 back to their previous bases. Remember, they would have had to have advanced a base and R1 to have achieved first base for the play to just let go. But R1 or the batter runner was thrown out at first. And after the umpires imposed that penalty, the coach chose the outcome of the play, but the coach has to request that. And so the umpires then enforce the coach's option, which is the batter runner's out and R2 advances to second base, or I guess he advanced to third base actually, and R3 scores. So as they said at the end of that, the coach chose to trade an out for a run, which I think most good coaches will do any day. That is catcher's interference. Now, another form of interference is runners interfering with fielders. The batter and runners must avoid a fielder who is attempting to field a batted ball, nor can they intentionally interfere with a thrown ball. It's an immediate dead ball. This is not a delayed dead ball. This is an immediate dead ball. If the batter interferes, the batter's out and runners are returned to their previous base. And if the runner interferes, that runner's out. The batter is awarded first base and all other runners are returned to their previous bases. And in situations where you have more than one fielder that has an opportunity to field the ball, the umpire has to choose which of those two they believe have the best opportunity to make the play, and they're going to protect that fielder. If the runner runs into the unprotected fielder, we do not have interference. The umpire has to make that judgment as to which one he's going to protect. And this will be one of those situations where we have converging fielders. So let's watch it play out here.
Left and having to reach over, so maybe setting up more down the middle helps.
Big bouncer, tough play. Gregorius has it go off.
Another look, high chopper. Gregorius, the only thing you can think about is barehanding, but that doesn't matter. It was really the collision with Headley, who was legitimately trying to get there to make the play. Lindor at the last minute tries to adjust, but it's incumbent on.
Yeah, so both that shortstop and third baseman were very close to making a play on that. I'd say the third baseman had the best opportunity to field that cleanly, and his throwing path would have been a direct line to first base. He's the one I'm going to protect in that. Maybe you saw it a little bit differently. That's fine, but you have to choose which one you're protecting, and you're not going to protect both. You're going to pick one to protect. And as we talked about earlier, the runner's baseline, you can go out of your initial baseline to avoid that fielder. The fielder has the right of way to field the ball without being interfered with. So you can go around them quite as wide as you need to go. Now, runners hit by a batted ball. They're not runner interference. These are runner hit by a batted ball rules. It's the responsibility of the runner to not get hit with the batted ball. It's immediate dead ball. Runners called out for being hit by the batted ball. Other runners are returned to their time of pitch base, and the batter is awarded first base. There's some exceptions to this. The runner's not out if the ball is first deflected off the fielder. So fielder making a play on the ball, he muffs it, and then it hits the runner. It's game on. It's not interference. If the batted ball goes through or by a fielder and then touches a runner immediately in back of that fielder, then it's not interference. And through is, as it would sound, like between the legs, and by is, within a reach of the fielder. So if their outstretched arm and glove could have gotten that ball, then that qualifies as being one of these exceptions. The caveat is that you have to make sure that there's no other fielder on this second one, this through or by, that there's no other fielder that had a chance to make a play on the ball. So if there's another fielder that's just in back of the runner, then it's a different situation. That would be interference. Let's see how that might look here on this. So we have a fielder. Ball goes by within his goes by him. Didn't go through him, but was in his reach, and then hit the runner. But we had another fielder that was lined up just in back of that base runner. Then we would have interference in that situation. Here's an example of that. It's gonna be pretty quick, but the ball is going to go through the fielder's legs on this.
Hooks up Moffitt, he rolls it to first and hit the base runner. And you see here the first baseman, Flores King, goes after the ball, goes past him, and game on. I just wasn't sure if it hit the runner or the glove.
Yeah. And on some of those other angles, you saw that second baseman was right in back of the runner and was lined up to make a play. And so that runner did interfere, even though it went through the legs of the first baseman initially. All right. Now it's the responsibility of the runner not to get hit by the ball. So we're going to have a vote on this. Let's watch this video and get ready for a vote.
Drafted and signed by the Phillies in 2008. That hits the runner. And
All right, let's see our questions here. R1 is allowed to go to second base since the defense was able to get the batter out on a force at first. R1 is out for interference, and the batter is out on a force at first base. And our third option is R1 is out on the interference, the ball is dead, and the batter is awarded first base. Let's see how the vote comes in.
Okay, hold on a second. Having a little. There we go. So let's jump on that poll.
No. Great.
And here are the results. 89% said C.
Yeah, that is the right call. When the runner is hit by the ball, it's an immediate dead ball, and the batter is awarded first base. Yeah. If there were other runners on base, they would have been sent back to their original base. But in this scenario, we just had the batter to award first base. All right, runner interference on a thrown ball. On a thrown ball, a runner's out if he or she intentionally interferes with a throw. And a double play may be called if it's intentional. There are sometimes unintentionally getting hit with a thrown ball. That's nothing. That's a bad throw. It's maybe a bruise on the person who got hit, but there's also intentional, and that's going to be interference. Some examples of no intent to be hit with the
Bouncing
throw.
ball. Teixeira with a good stop goes to second. They get the ball gets dropped. Oh, what a break for the Indians! As
Goldie calls it. A play at the plate. They hit the runner and the game is over.
running on his way from
We'll talk about that one in a second. On this one, there is intent to be hit with a thrown ball.
This gets away from Murphy, backed up by Walters. They got him hung up. He dropped it once, and he put his helmet into the.
All right, 3 examples. The first one, the runner was just sliding into second base and was hit in the back by the throw from the first base, and that's a nothing. On the second one, the runner running home from third to home, he may have intentionally gotten into the throwing lane of the third baseman. That's a nothing as well. There is no runner's lane type interference on any base other than a play being made towards first base. And in this example, Mr. Calhoun clearly stuck his helmet into the path of the ball and interfered with the throw. So he's going to be out. Batter interference. Batter's out for illegal action when interfering with the catcher's fielder or throwing by stepping out of the batter's box, making a movement that hinders the catcher's actions at home plate or the catcher's attempt to make a play on a runner, or failing to make a reasonable effort to vacate a congested area when there's a throw to home plate and there's time for the batter to move away. And they can't move towards the action. This is moving away from where the play is going to happen. It's a delayed dead ball. If the runner's retired, then interference is ignored. Otherwise, the batter's out and runners return to their original bases. By the way, the second one is probably the most common, and you'll see this a lot where a runner may be trying to steal second base and it's a hit and run situation or a sacrifice bunt, and so the batter moves across the home plate in trying to get to that outside pitch and steps in the throwing path of the catcher. So that's one for umpires to really keep an eye out for.
Yeah. Jim, we've got a couple questions in the chat, but let's get to them after you finish interference.
Okay. Let's watch some videos on these different types of catcher's interference. This is going to be the first one, stepping out of the batter's box and interfering with the catcher's fielding or throwing. Batter takes a step out of the box, right into the throwing path between the catcher and third base. That's interference. The second type is movement that hinders the catcher's actions at home plate or the catcher's attempt to make a play. All right, batter, he's a spectator right now. He's watching that ball. He's gotten in the way of the catcher. And our final is failing to make a reasonable effort to vacate a congested area when there's a throw to home plate or a play being made. Yeah, poor Keith, he walked right into the action there. Can't do that. We can also get 2 outs. If a batter or runner has been put out, then we still need to get an out for the interference.
On the backswing, that caught Bobby Wilson.
So David Ortiz just struck out, so he's out. And in his swing, he's interfered with the catcher. That's going to be an out on the runner from first, R1, and he's out on his teammate's interference. So we got a double play on that.
But if David Ortiz had not been out, if that had not been strike 3, what would have been the call?
Yeah, on that one, we're gonna call David out on interference, and we're gonna send the runner back to first base if there's not a throw attempt.
Yeah. So it's on that, it is a delayed dead ball, because if the catcher has a chance to make the play anyway, we're going to let him do it. But in this situation, he didn't make the throw because of the interference time. That's interference, and impose the penalties.
Okay, so let's get to this vote, and then we'll get to the questions in the chat. All those parents are calling for interference. Let's see what we got here. The parents are all voting A. What are the umpires voting tonight?
All right, lots of votes coming in. And here are our results. A lot of our umpires said B.
Yeah, it is B. You know, the batter has to step out of the box. They're allowed to hold their ground inside the batter's box. It's not their fault that the catcher threw and hit the bat of the batter. So the catchers need to work around the batter. The batter does not need to vacate the box.
Now, if the ball gets by the catcher, then that batter needs to get out of the way, because he doesn't know where that's going to be. But in a situation where the catcher has the ball, they're stepping up to make a throw to try to retire a runner, they can hold their ground.
Yeah. So let's look at some of the questions here. So Ryan asks, in that situation, do you point and shout, "That's nothing"? Actually, that's actually a good thing to do, is whenever, let's say that there's a possibility of action being interpreted as interference and you've got nothing, it's just to give that you don't have to audibilize anything, but just point and say that by your actions, that's nothing. All right, I do that at home plate a lot with the battery interference. Mark, anything to add on that one?
Yeah, you can say that's nothing. It just is, kind of answering that question. Was that interference? And the umpire says that's nothing in your judgment, that you thought about maybe making a call, but it didn't rise to the level of interference, or you didn't make a call there, but you intentionally didn't make a call.
Yeah.
And it's just lets them know you're watching. All right, next question. What's the impact? This is from Ivan. The impact if the batter runner is in foul territory and is hit by the ball. And I think this is a batted ball that contacts the batter runner on his way to first in foul territory. It would need to be intentional if they're hit by a foul ball. If they intentionally contact that ball, try to scoot it fair, or some other thing, they can be called out for that. But if they just accidentally run into a foul ball, it's nothing. But if it's a fair ball and they are outside of the batter's box, then they are out and they've been hit by a batted ball, just the same as any other runner that's been hit by a batted ball in fair territory. They would be out and other runners would return.
I'll add, if there's a runner on third and they've on contact, they've stepped off the bag and they're still in foul territory or are hit with the ball, it's just a foul ball. If they've actually stepped off the base or in fair territory and are hit by a ball that's in fair territory, then they're out. Remember, it's the status of the ball relative to the fair foul line. That's the important thing.
Yep, good point. And that's why coaches should be teaching their players to lead off from third completely in foul territory. So that if you're hit by the ball, you're not going to be out. It's just going to hurt.
Yeah.
And then a question from Isaac: if you have to eject someone from the game after they score, do you count the point? The answer is yes. You wait. If you have to eject somebody for something that happened during a play, you let the play finish and then impose the penalties at that point. All right, I think we can go on.
All right.
So here is an important rule that's a distinct Little League rule. This is different than what people are used to in other kinds of baseball, travel ball, high school ball, pro ball. We talk about slide or attempt to go around. It's sometimes called the must slide rule, but you don't have to slide. You have other options. If the fielder has the ball in his or her possession and the fielder's waiting to make the tag, then the base runner must either slide, attempt to get around the fielder, or retreat to the previous base or give themselves up. There is no just running into the fielder in hopes that they will drop the ball. That is not the case. And in fact, if it's malicious, somebody can be out and ejected for something like that. Attempt to get around, it doesn't mean to avoid them. You might bump into them. You might brush them as you're attempting to get around. You are not forced to slide if you're trying to get around and you're not going more than 3 feet to avoid the tag. You are satisfying the rule here. But in this situation, we just want to avoid those collisions. So if that fielder has the ball, the runner should either try to go back to the previous base or just give themselves up or try to slide in, good legal slide, that situation. So think about it in that situation. Does the fielder have the ball? And are they waiting to make the tag? It can't be ball, fielder, base runner all arriving at the same time. That doesn't satisfy the requirements of the slide or attempt to go around rule. So let's look at this situation.
Ground ball to first, and Campbell's coming home, and they're going to have Ryan Howard. He's safe at the plate. He got around the tag. Does an unbelievable slide coming home. Soda took him up the line, and Ryan just shows his athleticism and goes around that tag. And very nice slide, heads up play as well.
All right. So this is not a Little League game, but we're using it to ask these questions. Does the fielder have the ball, and are they in a position to make the tag? I think so in this situation. But this runner is kind of sliding, but they're also going around, but they didn't go more than 3 feet from the baseline. And however, if this were a majors game, which it's not, would you consider this a head first slide while advancing? There is such a thing as a hook slide where the legs go by and you touch the base with your hands, but the feet were first. I don't think this slide meets the definition of a hook slide, so it might be considered a head first slide. If somebody is doing a head first slide in Little League while advancing, they are called out. But just to get you thinking about that rule. Does he have the ball? Is he waiting to make the tag? All right, we're going to move on to appeals. Back in that set of definitions, Rule 2.00, alphabetical. So appeal is right up there at the beginning of Rule 2. An appeal is an act of a fielder in claiming a violation of the rules of the offensive team. So a situation where they have failed to tag up on a batted fly ball or left early. They went back to tag up, but they left that base and tried to advance before the ball was caught or touched by a defensive player. If they fail to touch a base while advancing or returning, and you have a window to do that, you can't go back and return to touch a missed base after a runner after you has scored. When the ball is dead, no runner may return to touch a missed base after they have advanced to and touched the next base. And then overrunning or oversliding first base and failing to return to the base immediately is another appeal. They can be tagged if they haven't come back to first. And then the failure to touch home plate and they make no effort to return to home plate, they enter the dugout or other dead ball area. On all of these situations, the defense has to make an appeal. They have to tag either the runner or tag the missed base or the base left early and tell the umpire what it is that they're doing or make it obvious to them. Like a runner leaving early on a tag ball from third, it's obvious what the defense is appealing. And so you will make a call on that. But otherwise, make sure that you know what it is. So this has to happen before the next pitch, play, or an attempted play. You need a live ball. So if they call timeout and try to figure out how to do the appeal, you have to make the ball live again. And guess what can happen during the live ball? They start to make a play to make an appeal. That means that those runners are released and they can take off and they might score. And and if they go to make a play on that guy, they've lost their chance to appeal. The appeal itself is not a play or an attempted play, and it has to be clear to the umpire what it is they are appealing. So let's say a runner missed second base and the center fielder comes running in with the ball in his glove and just happens to step on second base. That is not an appeal of that missed base. It has to be an unmistakable an appeal that you let the umpire know what it is that you're appealing. So defensive players have to be on the field in fair territory except for the catcher. Pitcher on the mound. Plate umpire puts the ball back in play. That pitcher has to step off because if he is engaged and, for instance, throws home or throws on the place, that would be considered a pitch and they would lose their opportunity to make that appeal. They throw to the base or they tag the runner and they tell the umpire what they're appealing. The ball is live, so other runners can advance at their own risk or even that runner that's being appealed. And if the defense makes a play or attempted play on another runner, it's going to void that appeal because it needs to be done before the next pitch or play. So if they start to make a play, then they've lost their chance to appeal. So here is a famous one. This is the Petaluma team. This is at San Bernardino, Western Region. And listen to the coach here. They're playing Northern California is going to be appealing a play that Hawaii has a missed base. Let's watch it play out.
He scored.
Did he miss third? You weren't looking? Did you think he did? Who, which one? Which one, the first guy or the second guy? Which one? The second guy?
Okay, so the first thing you're gonna do, you're gonna step off and you're gonna, when he says play, you're gonna step off, you're gonna throw it to Cole, nice and easy, and you're gonna say that the second runner missed the bag.
Right? That umpire saw the missed base and he was ready, but he didn't say anything until it was properly appealed. All right. We're going to talk about batting out of turn. You have a batting order. Everybody's supposed to be batting in the proper place. You can't have your best batter bat every other batter. They have to wait till the lineup turns over to get back there. So here's some terminology that we use in discussing batting out of turn or batting out of order. The proper batter is the one who should be batting. The improper batter is the one who is batting in the wrong place. They are up to bat and it's not their turn. That improper batter can become a legalized batter when it is a failure by the defense to appeal that somebody batted out of turn. And they reestablish that batting order now with the next batter after that improper batter who has been made legal because they didn't appeal it properly. So let's continue through some of these details. So if the improper batter becomes a runner or is retired, before they do that, while they're still up to bat, the proper batter can come. The offense can fix it. They come to bat, but they resume the improper batter's count, and you play on. If that improper batter finishes their at-bat, they either become a runner or they're retired, and before the next pitch to the next batter of either team or before any play or attempted play, if that's properly appealed, then the person who should have been batting, the proper batter, is the one who is declared out. If there were any advancement of bases because of a ball batted by the improper batter, or because of the improper batter's advance to first base on a hit, error, base on balls, hit batter, or otherwise, that will be nullified. So if anybody advanced because of the actions of that improper batter, but if somebody steals or there's a wild pitch and they move up to the next base while the improper batter is there, that advance is legal because the runner did that kind of on their own and not because of an illegal action by the improper batter. And then the final note here, an improper batter becomes a runner, is retired, and the defense fails to properly appeal that, then that batter becomes the proper batter, the legalized batter. It becomes legal, and you just pick up the batting order. So the defense has a window. If they say, oh, this is an improper batter too soon, then the offense has a chance to correct it. And the proper batter gets put up, and he just inherits that count. But if they fail to do it between the end of the at-bat, whether the ball's put in play or the person is put out, or put into play and reaches base or is retired, and before the next pitch or play, if they fail to do that, we just continue to play on. So a lot of coaches get all excited. Oh, I found them batting out of turn, but they appeal it too soon, and the offense has a chance to fix it. So be aware of that. Also, your batting order as the plate umpire is the official one. And you pull it out and say who should be batting, and then you got to figure it out. There are about 20 different examples in the rule book, and go through those, think about them. Do they make sense? But these principles, the proper batter, the improper batter, the legalized batter that Jim has in this slide, those are the key to understanding the whole thing about batting out of turn. Jim.
Great. So that concludes our 90% of last night and tonight that's focused on rules, and now we're going to save the last bit of tonight for game management. Umpires are responsible for game management. There are a lot of different aspects of it, and it starts with the plate meeting. It should be happening about 5 minutes before the scheduled start time. So if it's a noon start, your plate meeting starts at 11:55. The game coordinator should also attend if it's 2 youth umpires. If it's one adult and 1 youth, then we don't need a game coordinator on the game. But if it's 2 youth umpires, then a game coordinator should be attending the plate meeting, after which they leave the field of play but are close by. So they never leave the actual area around the field. The players, offense and defense, should all be in the dugouts. There shouldn't be, the home team out on the field doing, practice. They're all in the dugout. The umpire is going to remember this acronym. It's LEGS. The L stands for lineups. The player name on the lineup card, not their number, sets the batting order. So if you get a lineup card that doesn't have names, you need to give it back to the coach and tell him I need the names of all the players. Numbers are not enough. And lineup cards are required for both bat nine and continuous batting order. Mark just spent a lot of time talking about batting out of turn. You can bat out of turn in continuous batting order. So just because your league may have adopted CBO doesn't mean that you get a hall pass on having lineup cards presented to the umpire at the plate meeting. Equipment. This is real simple. You're just going to ask the coaches, are your players properly and legally equipped to play in accordance with Little League rules? And you're going to ask that again if you don't get a clear yes. And so just be businesslike and ask it again, smile, and just keep asking until you get a yes. Cover any ground rules that are unique to the field. That's what the G stands for. And then reminder for everybody about good sportsmanship. So our LEGS acronym: lineups, equipment, ground rules, and sportsmanship. Your goal should be to get this done in 2 minutes or less. That way that noon game starts promptly on time. So 2 minutes or less. It should be fast. Now, lineup cards for continuous batting order are pretty straightforward. All players are listed in the order that they're going to bat. Once again, names are important. That's the important thing. Numbers are a bonus. You should at least have who your starting pitcher and catcher are going to be at a minimum. And note any ineligible pitchers. Now, defensive subs, we talked about this earlier. Defensive subs don't need to be reported to the umpire in continuous batting order. It's on the manager to ensure that all their players receive their minimum play time. Little League, it's a minimum of 6 defensive outs. Some leagues have adopted more than that, but that's what your league has in terms of minimum play time if it's something more than 6. The bat 9 lineup card is a little bit more complex. You start with listing your starting 9 at the top of the batting at the card. You designate who your pitcher and catcher are at a minimum. Substitutes should go below and not to the right of the starters. Now, these lineup cards oftentimes have substitute pre-printed in the right-hand column. That's actually for the umpire to write the substitutes into as the game progresses. You want to note the ineligible pitchers. And as I just mentioned, the substitutes are going to be notated to the right of the player who they've come in for. So in this example, this is the way I do these cards, and this is my code. So for the 6 hole, for number 10, Fred Yu, I've got number 4 coming in the top of the 4th. In the 7 hole, I've got number 2, George T. I've got number 1 that's come in for him in the top of the 4th. And then the starter re-entering in the bottom of the 6th. So I've got 2 players designated in this as the substitutes. So that's my style of doing these bat 9 lineup cards.
And Jim, if I could follow up, you mentioned earlier, it's the names that are important. The numbers are a bonus. oftentimes coaches will get the numbers wrong, or there'll be a mistake, and the other team gets all excited, like, oh, they're batting out of order because they had the numbers wrong. You can fix the numbers, but that just having a wrong number does not mean it's a violation because the names are primary, and that comes from the history of baseball. They used to not even have numbers. In fact, the Yankees were one of the first teams to ever have numbers.
Okay. Yep. Thanks, Mark. So the back side of the lineup card, it's a big white canvas for you to take notes. You can mark down who your pitchers are and the visits. There's a limit on the number of visits. We went over that yesterday. Mark down who your catchers are and the innings that they caught. We went over yesterday, their eligibility to pitch is limited by how many innings they've caught. So make note of how many innings they've caught. In this example, I've got, Caden. He was my starter. He was subbed out for in the top of the third by Isaiah with 1 out, and then he re-entered as a catcher in the top of the fifth. Know who your catchers are by name. They're going to be there protecting you, hopefully, all game long. So get to know who they are and get them to work hard on your behalf. Mark down who the special pinch runners are. Remember, a player can only be run for once in the game as a special pinch runner. We also want to mark down who the verbal based on balls, intentional walks have been. They can throw 4 balls wide as many times as they want, but a player can only be verbally intentionally walked 1 time in a game. And I like to keep note of the score by the half inning. And especially right now, weather can be inconsistent. And so if we don't get a complete game in, I can take my card and hand it to the umpire that's going to pick up the continuation part of this game on the following day. So they would know, hey, what this was the score, what were any of the other things that need to be noted that carry forward into the continuation part of that game. Ejections and protests, this is a place for you to make your notes about that as well. Hopefully you don't have to use that ever. Warm-up pitches in between the half inning. When a pitcher takes a position in the beginning of each inning, that pitcher shall be permitted to pitch not to exceed 8 preparatory pitches. Such preparatory pitches shall not consume more than 1 minute of time. So remember, maximum of 8 warm-up pitches or 1 minute, whatever comes first. And that minute actually starts as soon as the 3rd out is recorded in the prior half inning. And you can, as an umpire, you don't need to allow that pitcher to take the full 8 warm-up pitches. They can be allowed to take fewer. And so strictly followed, there's 12 minutes of total in between inning warm-up time in a 6-inning game. And that's important because some leagues have time limits on their games. So, 12 minutes, that may seem like a lot, but it's the minimum. And if you're going 2 minutes, which may not seem like a whole lot more at any 1.5 inning, well, suddenly if you're doing that every half inning, that's 24 minutes where you're not playing. And if it's 3 minutes, Lord help us, it's 36 minutes where you're not playing baseball. So, so things that speed up the half inning, coaches make sure that they're talking to their team in the dugout, not outside the dugout. So this is the team that's going on offense. Get the leadoff batter ready. You can talk to the other 11 players on your team, but get your leadoff batter ready. And substitutes while on offense are announced when the subs come to the plate or when they're on base. It's not you announce the substitutes, hey, this person's going to come in and substitute in the 3rd batter of the inning. You don't take that. You don't take preemptive substitutions on offense. They get announced and when the subs happen when on offense. For teams going on defense, the pitcher should be warming up with a properly equipped player or adult ASAP. Once again, we added adult last year because that became legal in 2023 for adults to warm up pitchers. So there's no reason why pitchers can't get warmed up quickly. Minimize the team huddles, get them on the field. Don't be huddling for very long. And substitutes. Let the umpire know subs when the pitcher is early in their warm-ups. Too often, the pitcher's taking their 7th or 8th warm-up pitch, and here comes the defensive coach coming to give me 3 subs, which is going to consume another 2 minutes for me to get it all taken care of. So substitutes should be done early when you're on defense. Adults on the field. So in majors, 1 manager and 2 coaches are allowed to be on the field. In minors, you can have 3 coaches are allowed to be on the field or in the dugout. And on the field is only when you're on offense. And that's, you always have to have at least 1 adult in the dugout at all times. That's regardless of whether or not you're at bat or on defense. And if you're on offense, you can have base coaches, 2 adult base coaches. But when you're on defense, the coaches and managers need to be in the dugout. There is an exception in T-ball and minors. Managers and coaches may be on the field for instructional purposes. I would recommend limiting this to 1 coach for minors. T-ball, not such a big deal, but 1 coach for minors. And never, ever can buckets be on a Little League baseball field. So make sure that nobody's sitting on a bucket. Even in minors, if you've got a coach that's on the field, they cannot be sitting on a bucket. Yeah. So that's some tips on game management.
All right. Thanks, Jim. And so, you want to be aware of that. You want to be telling those coaches, and it's your way while you're on that field. They need to listen to you. They're required by rule to listen to you. So we talked last night a little bit about the Rulebook app. It's available on Google Play or in the Apple App Store. It is free. It is searchable. It automatically updates every year. There's some videos on it, some case plays. It's searchable. So spend some time out there. Just another excuse to use your phone. It's like, get off your phone. Mom, I am looking at Little League rules. It's okay. The Little League website, if there's training resources, there's videos of presentations, much like this one. There's instructional videos. There's tips and tricks there. There's a little pull-down menu. It says information for players, parents, and then one of those categories is umpires. You go there. People are asking, where can I get umpire gear? Where can I get a shirt to really look the part when I step on the field? Where can I find pants that are specially styled to enable you to wear shin guards under them as a plate umpire? They're that right shade of gray. A great place to get stuff is jerrydavis.com, and there's a 10% discount called LL10 code that's available to anyone who's involved in Little League. Jerry Davis is a retired professional major league umpire who was one of the top umpires really of all time, and he is a umpire consultant for all of Little League, and he is spending a lot of time working with the umpires at the national and regional levels. There's stuff at the shoplittleLeague.org site. Another site is Honig's, Umpatire, and there's another one that's not up here called Smitty's, Smitteez, I think. They have some stuff, but if you just search it, you'll find all the different styles of shirts, but start out with something that's like a basic navy, the traditional shirt. A cap that's a black or navy is a good thing to do. Wear black shoes, and make sure they're nice and clean when you step on the field. Another special resource for umpires is the umpire registry, and it's at littleleagueumpire.org. There's even more training videos there, but you can join the Little League Umpire Registry and you can get links to find out about more things. It's also where umpires can apply to be a part of a regional or World Series. And there's other things there. So if you're really wanting to take your umpiring seriously, check out the umpire registry. We also have a umpire page on our District 44 website, so cad44.org. There's an umpire tag, and there's some information there. This where the links to this this webinar were found, but there's also information there about applying to become a redshirt umpire. Okay, question. What is the app called? It's called Little League Rules or Little League Rule Book. I think it's just, yeah. And so if you just search Little League, it should just come up. And a red shirt umpire, you notice that Jim and I are both wearing red umpire shirts. In District 44, we have a special honorary designation of people who have excellence in both volunteering and in umpiring. And they are the leaders in District 44. If you came to our mechanics clinics, many of the instructors there are redshirt umpires. It's a long, proud history that we're part of. But there's a lot of other umpires that are out there that are very experienced and great people to learn from. But if somebody really wants to take their umpiring seriously and they're willing to do all their games as a volunteer, then by all means, let us know that you're interested in that, and we'll take you through that process and mentor you to be there. There are
Right.
other,
Well, let me,
yeah, go ahead.
let me add one thing about the Little League umpire registry. There's no cost. There's no solicitation that comes from it. It's just good resources. It's also where the rule instruction manual is, the RIM, which is it's a PDF. It's got, if you're not comfortable with using technology like the Little League Rule Book app, then it has word for word all the rules, and there are no rule changes that affect the regular season this year. So last year's RIM is good for this year. Plus, it has a lot of extras that that get added on that explain the rules in a little bit more depth and give you more case plays that you wouldn't find in the regular case play book. So that's I've really encouraged people to sign up for that the Little League umpire registry.
Yeah, great point, Jim. The RIM Rules Instruction Manual has instructors' comments and approved rulings that are not in the rule book, but really help round out your information. And those are prepared by the umpire leadership at the top of Little League. And then also want to mention that there is ongoing training available. So District 44 had our mechanics clinics. We have this rules clinic. There are things available in the Bay Area regional outreach clinics. They've passed for this year, but next year they'll be available. But there are also umpire trainings that happen down in San Bernardino at Western Region headquarters. There is a week-long Western Region Umpire Training Academy that you stay there, and for 6 days you are on the field during the day, you're in the classroom at night, and you eat, breathe, and dream baseball for a week. But they also have extended clinics that cover weekends that start on a Friday and end on a Sunday. And you can get a lot of information, a lot of stuff packed into that. And those are available on the Western Region Umpire website, and would recommend those. Right, so we have covered a lot tonight. We covered stuff about the runners, the baseline, base path, interference, leaving early. We talked about base awards for a ball thrown out of play. We covered obstruction, type A, when the play is being made on the obstructed runner, type B, when no play is being made on the runner, and how you enforce those differently. We talked about runners, batters, catchers interference, the Little League slide or attempt to go around rule. We covered appeals, batting out of turn, and game management at the end. A lot. This information or this clinic was recorded. It'll be posted onto YouTube. Both nights will be there with links on the District 44 website. And so I encourage you to let other people know. We had some fewer people tonight, but those of you who are here, good for you. And you got the information first. Do let your umpire scheduler or your UIC know you are a trained umpire and you're ready to do games. Get out on the field and do games. That's the best way to learn how to umpire, is to actually umpire. Work with people who are experienced, who can help you, mentor you as you go forward in all of that. So we want to thank you for tuning in. We're going to stop sharing screen and pull people up. If people want to unmute and ask questions, Jim and I will stick around and answer any questions that people might have. But otherwise, thank you for tuning in, and we're glad to have you here. All right, any questions from anybody here? Seeing some people know how to use their reaction button on Zoom. So we're getting some okays and some claps. But mostly people are thinking I can still enjoy a little bit of my Friday night and not have to think about Little League rules forever here. So thank you, everybody. A special thank you to Jim Molaris for putting together the presentation and for all those great video examples. And by all means, hit us up if you have a question. My phone number and my email are on the District 44 website, and you can reach out to me. Or if you see any of the red shirts or other experienced umpires at the games, ask them your questions. Nothing more we enjoy than just talking baseball and getting into situations.
Um, if a player who is running to a base gets hit with a ball that wasn't and they didn't run into it, and they get down because it hit them somewhere painful, and the run and the fielders tag the base to get them out, are they still out?
Jimmy, you want to handle that one?
Let me make sure I understand the question, Josiah. So the runner is hit with a batted ball? Is that-
No, if he's running to a
Okay.
base and
Yeah.
a fielder throws a ball to try to get him out and it hits him and he collapsed or something because it hit him in a painful spot.
Oh, and it disables him and he can't advance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a great question. I'm not going to call him out on that myself, because the defense disabled him from being able to complete his attempt to get to the next bag. So it's not a pure definition of obstruction, but their action impeded his ability to progress to the next base. Mark, would you?
Yeah, I would say you have to use your judgment there, but if this would be in the category of common sense and fair play. If you felt like, had he not gotten hit in that sensitive area, he would have been able to make it to the next base, then I'm going to call time. I'm going to say, hey, we're going to award him that next base. But you do have to be mindful that, if somebody just does get hit by the ball, and it wasn't intentional and it's not disabling, sometimes it's just baseball, and that's the way it happens. It does bring up another point of, if a fielder is hit by a batted ball and they are hurt by it, but it's maybe they're hit in the leg, they go down, I'm going to wait to call time until that play finishes. But if I see a fielder that gets hit in the chest or in the head and they go down, I'm going to stop the play immediately and get medical attention for that player. And I'm just going to not worry about what was going to happen on that play. I'm going to award the batter first base, and we're going to make sure that player is taken care of. So in that situation, you have to make a decision whether it is a something that could possibly be like a debilitating or just keeps them from being able to continue, or whether it's just, oh, he got hit in the leg and let's keep the play going. And yes, I'm going to call timeout when the time comes, but beyond that, I don't need to. All right. I'm going to stop.